What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you're watching TWA Motorsports, and today, back on the dually. Okay, so in the last video, you guys saw that we did the speakers, I believe. We got the radio in it. We got some kill mat installed. Now, Cohen's been coming out here and doing a little bit of kill mat each night, but a couple things that we're hoping to accomplish in today's video. You know, I told you at the end of the last video, I'd kind of like to put a backup camera in this thing. And so I wanted to order one of those, and I got that in. So I'd like to get the backup camera installed today. I would like to get the power wire for the amp and sub ran or routed somehow. I would like to get carpet in, possibly the seats, okay? So try to get the interior back together. That's the goal. Don't know if we'll get that far, but we're gonna try. Now look, I've got this reinstalled, which just installs with a couple clips here. And I was able to clean that up with my extractor. Guys, it wasn't bad. It was mostly dust, but I got it cleaned up really good. It looks really nice. No staining or anything. The staining that it did have was down here in the corners, like where crap had ran back, and got all that out, and it looks nice. Now, the carpet, it's a different story. Look, Cohen said, hey, I want to clean that carpet. And so he started that process and was out here for a couple hours. And then I came out the same time and cleaned, or a different time, and cleaned that back carpet and started cleaning on this. And guys, it's got a hole in it where your heel rides. It has a couple spots that aren't gonna come clean. They probably would, but with the hole in it, I'm gonna buy replacement is what I've decided to do. So I actually got, with my upholstery guy, ordered the stock carpet, like, well, it's not factory, but it's molded for the factory floor. We're gonna have to cut holes in it. But the color, when I did the last vehicle, when I bought aftermarket carpet, it just didn't match. So I went down into his shop and got a swatch book, brought it out here, and found that the color, most of vendors all order from the same company, is taupe of all colors. I would not call this taupe. I know GM, I think I've read that a couple times, but I think GM calls this dark or light pewter, especially on the seats. But yeah, we got to get something different here. That's just not going to fly for me. The other thing I did was I ordered a replacement bottom for this that I'm not going to install. I'm actually going to have my upholstery guy install it. So if you see the seat disappear, it's because I got that in place. I'll try to list all the stuff, guys, that I'm using in the description down below. But yeah, we need a new, obviously this is junk. I'm gonna have him re-foam that while he's got it apart. And so I'm gonna let him do the hard stuff. But anyway, we need to get to the backup camera. I chose to go with a cheaper one this time because the last couple I bought that were like the really nice license plate frame ones, guys, the quality of the camera was just terrible. And for what they cost, it just wasn't worth it. So I decided to just buy a camera only. Okay, it's not a license plate frame. It's like literally, you'll see here in just a second, but it's just a piece that sits on there and behind the plate. And that's pretty much it. We just got to route that wire into the cabin somehow. And let's get started with that. Now, interesting enough, this Boyo or what, I don't know how you pronounce it. This is the same brand that makes the really expensive, like low profile. I've used it on a couple Tahoes, low profile license plate frame. So it's really thin, the camera is, and just the quality sucked. And this one has a better quality camera. So we're gonna give it a shot anyway, but it's very simple. You've got a wire that goes up to the cab, but this is kind of how it mounts. The other thing I didn't like about some of the other camera options is, guys, generally I put LEDs in the license plate light and I put LEDs in the reverse lights. Now, the problem that causes is if you get one of these that has a bunch of like night lighting in it, it washes out really, really bad at night because you've got too much light back here. And so I thought we would give this a shot to kind of see how things would work with this. But basically, this is pretty simple. We just have to take the plate off and we have to mount this here and we have to get the wire back behind it. I'm gonna try to see the best avenue to get the wire back there, but yeah, there's just not a whole lot to this portion of it. And then of course, we've got a power wire and we've got the trigger wire, which we're going to need. Now on the back of one of these trucks, you got a couple different options. I, for one, don't like seeing wire. Okay, it's just makes me nuts. You can go underneath, which is what I think I'm gonna do. I mean, you could go up above, like right here, but it doesn't tuck. I tried to tuck this in before, and then it makes this stick up and it just looks like trash. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna use a couple washers behind this just to give it a little bit of additional room. Now that's not gonna be the easiest thing to do, is to get the washers back there while we're going together with the plate, because the plate, then this sandwich is between the plate. But what it'll do is it'll give me enough room to run this wire back behind and hopefully not chafe it or screw it up over the time it's there. I don't know. Maybe or may not be a good idea, but that's the way I'm going to do it. And then once we get it mounted here, then we'll flip over to the inside and kind of see how we want to route the wires. The other thing you'll notice here is we've got a couple wires that you can cut. This is the guideline wire, on or off. And what's this one? This is the mirror image. So we're not going to mess with that until we get it hooked up in the truck, but just know that that's where those things are at. I forgot I bought this, but actually I've got the caps, and it'll come with some foam, so we can use that to space it out a little bit. And we can probably put a piece of foam up here on the corner where that wraps to help, like I said, keep that wire from chafing. But we're going to use this. I'll try to list this in the description. I forgot I had these until I opened up looking for a washer over there. This actually works perfect because I was able to double stack that foam, those foam stickers that came with the license plate bolts, to give that gap for the wire to run through. I don't know if you noticed, but the other thing I did is I wrapped one of those up top so the wire isn't rubbing against the sharp license plate. But now I've got these in place, put my little caps on, and we'll move under the truck and try to figure out our routing for the rest of the wire. Now, as far as wiring goes, it's pretty simple. We've got a feed wire, okay, like an RCA style. That's going to plug into the yellow on what we just installed, run up into the cab. This is the power. Now look, this is only going to get power when it's in reverse. So we want to tap in to the reverse light back here, which I'll get into the truck and show you here in a minute. But what I'm going to kind of do is I'm going to pull the radio out of the dash for now. I'm going to get this hooked up just to make sure that we don't have any issues before I go running the wire all the way into the truck, and then we'll kind of tuck up things and make it nice. But let's get these two plugged in. The other thing is cutting those loops. I'm going to wait, like I said, and do that until we have everything kind of where it's at, and we'll look at the image. Because if you cut that and you're not supposed to, you're gonna have to try to solder that little wire back together, and that's gonna suck. So let's loop this on the outside of the truck, get it plugged in the cab. We should have enough wire to do that. And we also, let's grab, I like to ground to the chassis if I can find a chassis ground for the ground of this, even though it's a ridiculously small wire. And then, like I said, power from the backup camera, we'll find that. Now running up here, I've got the RCA. You can see I got the dash pulled apart. I've got the camera plugged in with the RCA, just draped down here on the floor and back here to the back. But underneath, we need to grab power when the camera is, or when the thing's in reverse. So the easiest way, in my opinion, guys, to do this, there's a couple spots that we can grab it. You can go up to the tail light, pull the tail light out, and hit the green wire, okay? And the green wire is gonna be, it's in two spots. You can see it here on this lower plug, and there's one on the upper plug. That green wire is your reverse feed. So we need to tap our red wire into that. I'm probably just going to use a Positap. I'll show you guys what that looks like here in a minute. It actually loops over that, and then it screws in. It's very easy. And then I think the last time I did this, I used the junction box here, that 13mm bolt. I use that as a ground. So I'm going to take that 13 out. I'm going to clean up both sides of that bolt. I'm going to clean up the area where it mounts, and that will be a great ground. That junction box, that bolt does not come out of it. It's like a captured bolt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sandwich this between it. I had to add a little thicker wire and solder that together. But let's get that into place, and then I'll show you guys the Positap. So I'm going to go around this green wire with what they call a Positap. Now how this works is it unscrews here on one end, the black end here, and it goes around the wire. Of course, I'm not going to be able to get it open. the other end screws off for the wire that you're trying to tap into place. But look at this. So it's got this guy here that straddles it, so that'll go around the wire, and then this taps into it, and then we run our wire to the top. The cool thing about these is you can always remove them if you'd like. Now you can see it installed. Pretty neat little deal. Like I said, you can always remove it. And now we can ground it. We're gonna plug this back in. We're gonna give it a test before we start like cleaning up the wires. Now we've got everything hooked up. I plugged my plug back in up there. Got the two routed out here, all messy like. Let's go test it. Turn the truck on. Oh, there we go. Got a lot of reflection there. Let's see if we get an image. No, not getting an image. Wonder if our reverse lights are on. Yep, they are. So you can see the camera is indeed working. It's still got the protective shield over it, so it'll probably be kind of washed out, but you can see behind us. The only problem now is that I'm having is it's not triggering when I put it in reverse. I had to manually go in and turn it on. So I'm gonna have to wire it in. There's a feed on this that we can wire it into, so it shouldn't be a problem. It was actually on the stock harness, so I may have to unwrap some of my wire to get it in, but yeah, it'll work. Let's get under here and look at what we got. So I cleaned up quite a bit of the wire. I don't have it necessarily right where I want it, but I tied in with this. Obviously you can see the ground, put loom on it, taped it. And as far as getting the wire back here, guys, I went over the axle on the frame rail, so I just followed the fuel lines. You'll be able to see a little more of that when we get to the side, because I just started basically at the bed and came back. But I didn't want to zip tie this up because we may end up cutting a couple of those wires, you know, for the reverse image, and then for the I think it's the park lines. So I wanted to leave this loose, but you kind of get an idea what it looks like. It looks somewhat factory. I mean, this back here has always been a mess on these trucks anyway, so I think I can live with this. May zip tie a little more down and get some of these wires tied up a little closer together once we get the cabin part done. Now up here, this is where I started this process, is right where the bed starts. I went up here with the stock wiring harness, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna zip tie this to the factory harness up until we're gonna go, I think we're gonna try to go through the floor in the factory location here where the e-brake comes through, but I'm not 100% yet. We may drill an additional hole, but as of right now, that's my plan. I was going to drill 2 holes. Okay, I need one for the power wire for the amp to pass through. Kicker, that kit that I bought that comes with the RCAs, the power wire and all that, comes with a pass-through for a hole that you drill. And I believe I just kept using my stepped drill bit until I got to the size I needed. And that's the exact size for the wire that comes through. And I wanted to put it close to this one. And there it is, snapped into place. And we can pull our wire through, and it's not going to get chafed or screwed up in any way. So we can come out there and then go around for the power wire for the amplifier. Now, I want to run, I'm gonna push this out, and I'm gonna run our remote or our backup camera wire through this. I think there's enough room. I may have to slide this up a little bit, but I don't want the power wire coming through the same hole as that, because sometimes it can create some interference. I know it's close here, but we're going to try to get away from it and go a different direction. But anyway, I did drill 1 hole, and you can put this anywhere. Just make sure wherever you're drilling that you have ample room underneath. Don't run into any fuel lines or anything like that. Now that I've got that in place though, that I was actually waiting to see where I went through before I finished this panel out with the kill mat. So I'll do that off camera, but I'm gonna pop this out from the bottom, pull our wire through, and it'll at least be in the cabin at that point. At this point, we're officially in the cabin. You can see right here, put that back into place, kind of cleaned around it, and obviously we got to route that up into the dash and plug it into the camera feed. So I'll do that off camera. Like I said, guys, I wanted to get some of the wiring in here beforehand, but what I may do is I may change our focus to getting the power wire in. So remember, I drilled this hole for the power wire to come through, but we need to go grab it and tuck it down into the inner fender. I think I've got some room for it too, but we need to come up to our battery. I'm not going to hook that up yet, obviously, because we don't have an amp or anything in, but I want to kind of be in this area right here, and I got to figure out a place to put my fuse block as well. Now, Kicker does a great job of putting some insulator on the wire, especially up top here, like really nice stuff. But I went ahead and wrapped it with wire loom, and I went up to the point where the fuse is going to go. It has a nice little marking, but what the plan is we're going to come in right here beside the fuse block. Okay, we're going to go down and we're going to chase that wire on the, basically down this wire right here. I'm going to zip tie to this and go under the truck, and then we'll pick up kind of like right here where the fender meets, or the frame meets the fender liner. And I'll show you a little more. My light's dead, I just noticed. So I'm going to stuff it down in there, kind of get it situated. We'll zip tie it last because we kind of want to make sure that it's going where it needs to. Probably the easiest wire you'll ever route. You can see what I'm talking about. Came like right beside here, went underneath that stuff. I'm gonna push it down in that holder. And then I'm gonna zip tie to this line over here on the left, right? And it's just kind of poking down through there right now. But you can see that it came out right where it needs to. We'll get under there in just a second. I'm gonna zip tie some of this up. I think, guys, I'm gonna put my fuse holder like right here. I've done this a couple different ways, but I think right there will work and be out of the way of everything. So in order to do that, I'm sitting here thinking, do I want to do that now? I might as well. I'm going to take the battery out with a 13 millimeter, and then obviously the 2/8. Let's get it out of the way. Let's go ahead and mount our fuse block and put it down here a little ways, and then the line will come out of the bottom, and hopefully we'll be able to get something to tie it into the top. I guess a guy could put it, you know, like right here, just not a lot of flat surfaces. I've also in the past put it on this, which is something you could do as well. The downside is if you ever have to lift this thing out of place, it becomes a pain. We may just experiment here. I went ahead and mounted the fuse block. Something to keep in mind when you're doing this, obviously don't put too long of screws in. They're gonna poke out the fender. I put relatively short ones in. It is now mounted, and I have one wire stripped off that goes to the battery mount, which we'll get in later. But I'm ready now to just strip this one off, get it into place, and then I'll zip tie everything and make it look nice up here, and we'll go underneath and look at what we're doing there. Got everything back in place, and I've just got that wire setting here for now. Like I said, we'll come back and do that later. When we actually have an amp and a sub, we don't have that stuff yet. So now I'm just gonna zip tie, like I said, down that line. We'll get underneath, check out what's next. Here's what we got. So you can see where I'm zip tied right there in between. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then I come over the frame or the body mount there, and I've got it zip tied, and I've got it going up into the floor where it then comes over right there. So not too bad, actually a pretty easy job. And like I said, guys, you can put it wherever you want. Now, I skipped ahead quite a bit and didn't show you guys some of the pieces that I've done, but I'm going to talk about them right now. As you can see, I've got the factory padding down. Okay, we need that in place. And then I went ahead and put our connections back. These set on these little studs all the way across. I also grabbed, okay, you can see I came over with my power wire, and I may move it a little bit. I don't know. We'll just see how the carpet lays. Ran that back here for now. Okay, just left that. Same thing with the RCAs and amp turn on. They go down and they're just piled up in the back. And then I've got this kicker kit, comes with a ground that already has a connection on the end, like an eyelet. I use that 10 millimeter that this harness grounds to. It's a good ground. I tested it. If we need an additional ground or another ground, we can always move it. But that's what the black wire is hanging out here. So came a long ways off camera, but I want to show you guys, I finally got this thing working. I just didn't have the reverse input hooked up. So now when you don't have to have it started, but I'm going to go ahead and when it turns on here, if it turns on, yeah, we're aware. So now when we put it in reverse, we actually have a reverse camera. not the greatest quality camera. And look, in the settings on this thing, you can turn the park lines off if you don't like them. I don't necessarily love them, to be honest with you. I'd rather them not be there. So now that we know that, I'm gonna go ahead, tie up our loose ends back in the back. I just wanted to make sure everything worked before I completely made that nice back there. So now I can go ahead and do that, and we're gonna move on. Hopefully we'll have carpet soon. Now, I didn't get the carpet like I was hoping, but guess what I did get? I got the seat fix. Okay, so this is a replacement I got off of Amazon, and I'll list it in the description down below. It's kind of expensive, to be honest with you. It was like 160 bucks, I think, shipped. But man, it looks great. And so I'm not gonna be doing this. I know somebody probably wanted to see me do it, but I'm not. I'm gonna have my upholstery guy do that. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna clean up some stuff on the seat. For one, this is cracked, and I think I can fix this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go grab the pieces I need, or what is that? It looks almost like a T15 maybe, to get this off. And we're gonna try to glue that and then possibly repaint it. But I wanna clean that spot up, and so we need to get that loose. I was able to get that off, but it's broken in a couple spots. So there were 6, well, 1, 2, actually 5 screws that held this plate on. But this is broken off the back, which luckily it's still here, so I can reuse it. I'll glue that back on. You can see there's a crack in it. It's lost some of its shape, but now I'm trying to get this off. But what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to get a Phillips and get this piece loose, and because I want to clean all this stuff, obviously, guys, while this seat's going to get reupholstered. And hopefully, holy cow, it's disgusting. Yeah, he's probably gonna have to cut this one because it does not have the pieces for that. It's interesting. So we'll just see what he comes up with. Another reason why I don't want to mess with it is because of stuff like that. But anyway, let's grab a Phillips and get this off. After getting all the plastic off the sides of the seat, and they just popped loose, I'm gonna leave the remote, or the button, the thing that moves it back and forth, because he may need to move it. I don't know what's involved. Like I said, I'm not gonna mess with it for a couple reasons. One, it doesn't have the hole for the side, for the switches. He'll fix that, make that all work. Anyway, we're gonna get it down to him tomorrow. And he also said, well, we'll see how long it shouldn't take him long.